There's a guy named Bitcoin Max who told me that XRP has pretty much failed because Ripple is now going to stablecoins. He named all the banks that are now saying they're making their own stablecoin and that XRP is no longer needed. So in this video, I'm going to talk about whether or not he's telling the truth and whether or not I'm worried that one of these banks will replace XRP with a liquidity token. Guys, make sure you watch this whole movie if you want to learn more about the XRP ledger. As always, please help me a lot with this program. Thank you to everyone who liked the movies and signed up for the channel. These two easy things help me a lot. If you know of a good place to buy XRP, please let me know. You can find my favorite exchange listed at the end of this movie. So let's get right to it. I hope you guys like what's here. Before we even talk about how XRP can be used, I quickly talked about something because I think a lot of people didn't pay much attention to how the market was changing. We've kept XRP separate from being a source of value for a long time, and I've always thought this was wrong. Yes, XRP is a great way to save money. Even though it doesn't get as much attention as Bitcoin as a store of value, XRP is an asset that can be used to store value, and its quantity is falling. A lot of people in the XRP community have been putting their money into XRP against USD for a very long time. While the dollar keeps falling, XRP has gone up hundreds of thousands of percent since it was first created. That right there is a good place to keep money. You're putting your money into a digital product that will not go up in value but will go down in value. That's a fact, right? XRP will never be made again. That's why it's important to remember that this was a very early thought by XRP users, right? Many people have never heard of cryptocurrencies or XRP. It is also new to the whole banking system. Corporations are now getting the idea that people who own XRP should use it as a way to keep value. In the past 2 weeks, companies have jumped at the chance to use XRP as a treasure chest asset or way to store value. 500 million, 300 million, 121 million, 50 million, 10 million, and 5 million. Big businesses and banks are now agreeing with people who own XRP that it can be used as a way to store value. A record number of XRP ETFs are coming out. This isn't about how useful XRP is, right? This is XRP as an investment or a way to keep your money safe. One thing this shows is that XRP is still being used as a store of value even if it fails at all usefulness and is never used for anything useful. Personally, I think XRP will go way beyond what it is now in terms of its usefulness and use in the banking world. But that only proves it's not just one thing needs to happen here, and XRP will be very successful in the future in a lot of different ways. The amount of value that XRP can bring in is even bigger when it is used as a source of value, which is something that more and more people are doing. It would be great if XRP could bring in hundreds of trillions of dollars in cash for use, but if it has an extra 10 to 25 trillion in investment and value storage, that's even better. It means you have even more money. It's really cool to see how people are changing how they think about XRP, because Bitcoin had to admit, okay, well, we kind of failed at utility. Let's get rid of the use part and move on to the worth part. It's great that XRP is kind of running both of these tracks at the same time. It's really good news. I do want to make sure that people know how good that is, though. It lets us do things in whole new ways. With XRP, there are new possibilities that people didn't think of, but they are real and seem to be happening very quickly. It seems likely that more and more banks will choose to keep XRP, especially since it has a connection to the US. The story that the US tells about XRP will be very strong. We saw it at the start of 2025, but I think it will get stronger. A lot of people will say, you know what? I want the thing that comes from the United States. Companies that deal with money use this XRP thing, and it also has ties to the US. Because of this, I'm going to store my value in this instead of Bitcoin. That seems like it will keep happening. I bring this up because I don't think many people talk about XRP as a way to store value. But I think I could make the case that it's a better way to do that than somewhere like Bitcoin. Now that I've said that, I want to talk a little about the useful side and some of these stories. People say, okay, well, they're not going to use XRP. They are only going to use secure coins from banks. These banks are planning to make a whole new network. These networks will be used by everyone, and people will only use RLUSD, Circle's USDC tokens, or stable coins put out by the bank. That's only being said by people who don't know how XRP was built. Look at this stack of payments. This is how the payment stack looks right now. At the top, you have online banking apps. Then there are banks. Then there are the rules that say how the settlement is to take place, right? There isn't much settlement going on between the banks, it's just a lot of messages because the rules and governance around settlement are what you don't see as a customer on your bank portal. ACH is under settlement. With ACH and the Interbank Communication Network for lines and payments across borders, there's almost no infrastructure left, right? In essence, it's just a bunch of people moving money around behind the scenes on an old, broken system that's been duct taped together. The technology behind the settlement network isn't doing anything to make settlement happen, just taking money out and putting it back in. And it's a nightmare to keep track of who pays whom what. Since the messaging and banking apps are not connected to the infrastructure used to move money between accounts, debit and credit, the messaging and banking apps will not affect the infrastructure. XRP totally changes this because it allows for settlement, messaging, and the exchange of value and information across both. This means you have a brand new settlement network, which is a new piece of technology that is used to send the money. So people who think of banks, online banks, tech companies like Apple and Amazon, people like JP Morgan, and countries like the US are wrong. People think that everyone is going to make their own liquidity routing system and mess up the XRP ledger, but they don't know that everything else is on top of the XRP system. The framework for settlement is made up of XRP and Ripple. They all just plug in and use the system that works best for them to move money from one place to another. These people don't believe the system works the way it does. Many people who say that Bank of America will release a safe coin to replace XRP don't understand that Bank of America isn't even trying to change that. They don't know how to use technology. The network effect is not there for them. They do not have the tools to make a new settlement system. Who would want to use their town system even if they did? JP Morgan would say, no, I'm not going to use Bank of America's settlement system. We'll just make our own. Also, if everyone builds their own town system, there won't be a single one, and you'll be back to the same mistake you made before. The good thing about XRP is that it is a neutral public service, a neutral good, and a neutral value remittance protocol. This means that anyone can use it and the rules are fair. Instead of having one king, everyone would agree that no one is the king, and the value would be moved along the public decentralized lines at all times. That's how the internet works these days. If one company ran the internet, it would not work, right? Because no one would want to use the web after that. There is no bias on the internet because it is open to everyone. Really, anyone can use it, and then you're linked to everyone in the world. With XRP positions and the XRP ledger in the same place, Ripple is trying to make a neutral payment tool that anyone can use. Then it can't work if everyone has their own method, right? Everyone wants to be a part of the third way and only connect their own instance to that neutral settlement system. So those who say that XRP isn't needed and won't be used don't understand how the system is built. All of these different groups, corporations, governments, people, individuals sit on top of the rails and will use the most liquid, fastest, and most efficient track